7. Coming up on the Braves Sports Network, we have a special edition of Inside Braves Athletics with Braves baseball coach Carlton Hardy. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Coach Hardy coming off his first season as head coach of Alcorn State Braves baseball. A lot to get into. We'll talk about the season. Of course, with the NCAA settlement that just took place a few days ago, how does that impact Alcorn baseball or SWAC baseball? We'll talk all about that. He's recruiting a lot of new faces for next year. We'll talk all about it. We'll take a 30-second break. We'll be right back and get it started with the Carlton Hardy Show, Inside Braves Athletics, here on the Braves Sports Network.
My son Aiden has asthma.
Some names immediately evoke an uncommon sense of family, an unmistakable sense of character, an undeniable sense of legacy. Always. Where trailblazers and innovators chart new paths of possibility. Where academic rigor empowers the strength of character to lead with knowledge and integrity. It's a name that harkens back to over 150 years of truly making a difference in our world. Always Alcorn.
We are live here on the Braves Sports Network, 91.7 WPRL, WPRL.org, and we're on Facebook Live, WPRL's Facebook page. Glad you could join us. Our producers, Cedric Tillman, Jamario Brooks, I'm Charles Edmond. You can join the conversation with Braves head baseball coach Carlton Hardy. You can text the question 601-301-2611 or on X, Tall Man Radio. Let's look forward here. Next week, we're going to have Lady Braves softball coach Brianna Billy. She will join us this time next week. And then 2 weeks from today, Alcorn State Athletics Director Dwayne Robinson will join us. A lot to talk about, of course, with the NCAA settlement. Some of the football season ticket packages have gone out. We'll talk about that. So a lot to unpack with AD Dwayne Robinson. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Braves head baseball coach Carlton Hardy joining us. Coach Hardy, we really appreciate your time.
Hey, Charles, appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. We had some interesting conversations this year. Look forward to having more in the future.
Well, we were talking, and I must say, this is our first year working together, and I've worked with a ton of coaches. You are about as intense and as laser focused pregame as any coach that I've been around. And you said it. I mean, you kind of warned me about it before, not warned, but you told me about it last year. You're laser focused, you're process oriented. There's a process pregame. There's a process right before the game. And when the first pitch happens, you are just locked into what's going on that field in between the white lines. So I learned that about you. Even after the game, as you talk with your team, I can tell you're still kind of playing the game in your mind as you're walking back to the dugout. But, hey, every coach is different. Some kind of let it go and wash it, but you kind of go through the paces. You're about as intense pregame and even in game as about any coach that I've been around.
Yeah, as you said, I'm process oriented. I always tell myself, like, hey, I'm here for the kids. I want to make sure that our kids are extremely prepared before the game. And then that means I have to do some things to make sure that I'm prepared to help them navigate the course of the game. Baseball's it's probably a more mental game than physical. People say it's 80% physical or 80% mental, 20% physical because there's so many adverse situations. And I want to be that leveling rod for the players that, hey, I don't get too high, get too low, but I'm extremely focused. And I tell them, like, hey, we need to be focused from the first pitch to the last pitch. But I tell myself I'm focused from the morning I wake up until the end of the game. And as you said, sometimes at the end of the game, I'm going through my mind because baseball is a funny game. Unlike our other sports, there's one sport that we have that you play on Saturday. The next game is not the next Saturday. So you got 6 or 7 days to kind of prepare yourself for the next game. We have less than 24 hours before we play again. So I have to digest the game we just played. I have to pass along the message I need to pass along to the players, remind them about what we need to do in preparing for tomorrow. And as soon as the game's over with, I'm working out lineups. I'm working out pitching plans. I'm preparing for if there's a weather situation, if there's anything that's going to knock us off track. So I play the game through my head so that I'm there for the kids because they're going to look for me for guidance when things get a little rough.
Well, this is as relaxed as I've seen you. I mean,
Yeah.
believe it or not. I mean, during the
No
season,
game
you
today.
are in that no game today and no game until fall ball. We'll talk about that, of course, with the fall baseball schedule that you play. But this is as relaxed as I've seen you. I mean, even pregame and even after the game. I mean, you're just in it. I mean, how does it feel to be a little bit more relaxed, even though the season's over and we didn't exactly get to where we would like to be?
Yeah, I know. I've been doing this for a minute, a good little while, and this is my passion. This is something I love to do, and so when I wake up in the morning, I know some people that I know of they dread going to work. Like I get excited. I get a chance to work with some young men that that want to be successful, and so I'm there to help them along the way. And when they don't have the success that they want, I kind of feel it for them. But when they do have the success, I'm so excited for them. And so, good, bad, or indifferent, I try to stay level-headed, but sometimes that outside noise, it's just like, hey, I can't deal with it. I got these 35, 38 kids that I got to make sure that we're all on the same page because they're going to look at me every time something happens. And that's just the nature of the game. And so I want them to understand like, hey, there's a time to have fun and there's a time to get down to business. And those 3 hours that we're playing, unfortunately, some years or this year, some of those 3.5, 4 hours we're playing that I want to make sure that they understand like, hey, we're going to take care of business. Then after the game, we can kind of relax and do what we need to do. I
Well,
can't do that. That's just not my nature.
one of the things you talked about, the 3.5 hours, even with the pitch clock, we had the pitch clock out, and it was so surprising that even with the pitch clock, and maybe because some of the games unfortunately were one-sided, it was a lot of runs. Some of the games were 7 innings because of the 10-run rule, but the games that did go all the way, they were still well over 3 hours. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I don't want to get off topic, but just that the pitch clock, and I know it's been enforced, but it just seemed like the games still were pretty long. And was that just because some of the games were just kind of lopsided, or just a lot of runs scored, pitching and making a lot of changes? Even with the pitch clock, the game, even the Ole Miss game, in which we know what happened there, that game, even though they scored a ton of runs, it was still over 3 hours. I'm just wondering, with the pitch clock being what it is, to me, it just didn't seem to shorten the game.
No, I need to do a better job coaching our guys to attack the strike zone better. There's a game within the game, and so when you look at it, our goal is to make something happen within 3 pitches. But when we look at it, it's 3 balls, 1 strike. It's 3 balls, no strikes, and it's kind of like if you're watching a football game and a team is passing all the time on both sides, and there's a bunch of incompleted passes. The game seems like it's a little bit longer because the clock always stops. And whereas you have a team that runs the ball more, the clock is constantly running. And so I need to do a better job of coaching our guys up to understand, like, we attack the strike zone, the other team is going to put the ball in play, and then we catch the ball. The games will go a lot faster, and then we will have more success over the long haul.
We're talking with Braves head baseball coach Carlton Hardy, coming off his first season. Coach, I hate to say it. It's painful for me to say it, but our record was 6-43. That's the last time I'm going to say it. If you had to describe this season in one word, what would it be?
Maybe 2 words for me: a learning
Okay.
experience. That's what I took away from the season. I learned a lot about myself and things that I need to do differently to help the program have the success that I know it can have.
Mm. What did you learn about this season?
Well, I may have went about it the wrong way. I tried to come in and I knew, the entire team literally, because there were only two new people on the team, and those were actually three. Uh, One freshman who this was his first year, and then I brought in two guys right before the season started. And I tried to adapt to what we did before with play calling and um, times of practice, just to try to mesh it better so it wouldn't be that I would just come in like a blunt force and we're changing everything we're doing and we're going to do it the way that I understand. And so that was a mistake on my part. I didn't take as much control of the program in hindsight that I should have, but I can promise you, Brave fan, it's going to be a different product on the field next year. I've made a concerted effort, like, hey, we're going to do it my way. And my way has shown to be successful. And so we're going to do it my way. And we're just going to be better. I'm going to coach better. I'm going to coach harder. I'm going to be a little bit more demanding, but also understanding to the different things our young men go through while on a college campus. And so, second year will be much better than the first year.
I always thought, just being around you, being around the program, being in the dugout, being around the dugout, around the field, that you, at least to me, you were hands-on in terms of the way, as the season went on, they were trying to learn you and vice versa. But as the season wore on, it just seemed like the message was there. But I didn't know that you were more hands-off to start. And I remember our first interview with Coach Cormier and the fact that you didn't have to worry about a lot of field prep and just some of the things you didn't have to worry about. And so you could just worry about the game. But I thought, at least to me, that you had your fingerprints all over the program as far as the X's and O's and from within the game.
That may have been the case. I looked at it, I said, well, previous places I've been, I would bring in a new coach, but the players understood the culture. They understood what was expected, what was accepted. When I walked into Alcorn, it was the entire team, both coaches and players. So sometimes when I have a coach that's been with me, then we're on the same page trying to get the young man that we're coaching, like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what it's about, this is what is accepted and what is not accepted. Sometimes in the past, I've had an experienced ball club, like I've been there for a while. They've played for me. So when we bring in a new coach, the coach doesn't have to do too much in regards to discipline and how things are ran, because the young men they've already played for me. This year, which was a unique experience for us, is that I was the new guy in town and everybody else had been here. And so, again, like I said before, I was trying to make it an easier transition for the players as well as the coaches to my style of coaching and my expectations, instead of making them meet my standard and my expectation. But no one knew. And so it was a process. And as the season went along, I saw some things that got better. Now I'm going to have a full off season. We're going to make sure the kids are ready when they arrive on campus, all the paperwork that they need to do. And it's a tough transition. Some guys been there 2-3 years. They've had the same coach, and then all of that sudden that coach leaves. And so when I arrived on campus, from the first day until the last game of the year, I thanked the guys, like, hey, you guys went through a lot and you stayed. So I appreciate the guys that stayed, that allowed me an opportunity to coach them. And even though we didn't get the end results that we were looking for, I thought the process was well, as you said. And then, we're just going to, like I'm doing now, I'm recruiting like crazy. Right now, we have currently 17 young men that are going to be new to the program. Our goal is to bring in anywhere from 25 to 30. And so it's just going to be a different product on the field moving forward.
30 new guys. That's that's basically a whole new team. You had 13 seniors that you honored at Senior Day, and then you were telling me that you're recruiting over 10, 12. So basically, this 2026 edition of the Braves is going to be brand new.
Yeah, with the transfer portal, you're like, hey, you got the transfer portal, you can go out recruit, get another team, or a new team. But then it's also internally where there's players from other programs, and you got the high school kids and the junior college kids looking to latch on to a 4-year school. Sometimes the players within, they decide that, like, hey, I'm looking for something else. And so when I hear that message, I wish those guys the best. It just makes me recruit a little bit harder to find guys that can help make Braves family proud.
People that I've talked to that follow the team, and what I saw, the biggest thing was pitching. Was it really, when you look at the season, was it about just the lack of pitching? Was it other factors, or was pitching the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reason why we only won 6 games?
Very good question, Charles, and I appreciate it. I always look internally. I never look at the players. When things go well, it's always because of what the players did. When things do not go well, I look at what some of the things that I've done. And so I just need to do a better job of coaching our pitchers up, coaching the entire program up, which my plan is to do to help us have the success that our Braves fans want and what our Brave fans deserve.
And then I looking at the stats, Coach. I mean, you had 2 players in the top 10 in hitting. Spanky Davis, who will be back, obviously, number 7 in the league at 379, and then Jermel Ford, number 10 at 370. So there were some opportunities out there. You talk about pitching, but then in terms of offensively, there were some chances out there just moving guys along, small ball, but then getting caught in rundowns and things like that kind of took the starch and the steam out of a lot of offensive situations there. So you talked about pitching, but then just situational baseball. How much of a challenge was that?
Yeah, I try to instruct the guys. And again, I need to do a better job that I tell them that you just have to stay where you are. But sometimes when you're not having success, sometimes we take it upon ourselves as individual players. We try to do more than what is needed, and that's understandable. And I appreciate the young man that I had to coach last year, because for the most part, they wanted to win, and they had a desire to win, and they wanted to be successful. Sometimes they did a little bit more than what was needed, and it's my responsibility to coach the guys up better. Like, hey, be where your feet are, do what you can do, and then that's why we're a team. The next man up will pick you up. In other words, so you get on base, okay, well, you got first base. There's no reason to stretch to second base. It's the next man's responsibility to try to help you get to second base. And then we just keep passing that stick along. Our offensive philosophy is get them on, get them over, get them in. And so sometimes when we get a guy on and then I make a coaching decision to bunt the guy over, we don't execute the bunt. And so now the runner at first base may feel like, well, I have to get to second base. And then he gets thrown out when we probably shouldn't have been running in that situation. And again, that's on me in regards to coaching and telling them, like, hey, no, we're not stealing in this situation. The situation doesn't call for this. And so that's just an understanding of my philosophy, along with the players understanding the philosophy of the team. And so that when things don't go well in the first inning or that first out, whoever came up with this game said you get 3 outs. They said you get 3 strikes. And I want our kids to understand, and we're going to coach them up, that it's 27 outs in a game. And some games we're winning, but we've only accomplished 21 outs. And sometimes those 6 outs are the hardest to get. Or the first 3 or 6 outs, we're not successful, and we forget we still have 24, 21 more outs to play. And that's all a learning experience that I need to teach the guys, like, hey, we got 27 outs to play this game. We're going to play these 27 outs as hard as we can with the intensity that I expect. and with the passion that I expect for us to achieve the success that we want.
You always, every coach starts the season excited, energetic, and I know you were excited throughout the season despite the results. When did you feel like, okay, this might be a little bit harder of a haul than I thought? When did that? Because every season has a defining moment, whether you win the championship or whether it wasn't a great season. There's a point in which you know, okay, this is going to be a long haul here. At what point in this season, your first season, did you feel like, oh boy, I know you're getting up, going to work every day, you're excited. At what point did you feel like this may be a little bit more of a grind, of a push and a pull than I thought?
A very good question, Charles, and I appreciate it. I can't put my finger on one particular instance. And if it was an instance where I said, oh man, this is going to be tough, me going home, evaluating the game, waking up the next morning, and realizing it's a new day, realizing that I get an opportunity to do what I love, realizing that I get an opportunity to impact anywhere from 30 to 40 young men. That's coaches, that's managers, that's players. That motivates me. So in past seasons when we went on 12 and 15 game winning streaks compared to when we lost 4 or 6 games in a row, there was always the next day. And as I would explain to the players, we don't have time to sulk. We don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves because guess what? We play again tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then after that game's over with, it's a Sunday. Guess what? We play at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So there's no time in a baseball season in my opinion, to feel sorry for yourself. When I do reach that point, like, oh my goodness, what is going on? It just makes me work harder. Whether it's uh, going back into my playbook and game planning for the game, I'll get on the horn, and then I have to, maybe call some of my mentors. But then also, I'm like, hey, we need to recruit. There's no one else coming into this locker room or on this field that's going to help us this year. We're going to coach, and we're going to coach, and we're going to play hard. But to ensure that we kind of return to relevance, we just have to go get some players that's going to help us get there. And so, um, to answer your question, try to narrow it down. If I've ever felt that way, it just forced me to, or it just motivated me more to coach a little better, but then also recruit a little bit harder.
You talked about it earlier. A lot of coaches are rah rah. What they're going through because they're jumping, they're doing jumping jacks, and they're high fiving and all that. You're kind of the opposite. You have a more cerebral approach to things. I guess, is that just the narrow focus that you have? Like, yes, we got to run now. Let's see if we can get in position to get another run, and then another run, and then you're kind of thinking ahead. That's just kind of the body language kind of says that, at least from me watching you from afar. You're kind of thinking ahead. You're in the moment. Yeah, you got to run here, but let's see what we can do to add to whatever positive momentum we might have in that moment.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, Charles. I look at it and I try to tell our players, I try to be on an even keel. And so I talk to them about being a helicopter and being an airplane. And I said, a helicopter, it starts from the bottom, and then when it starts flying, it goes straight up. And then when it lands, it goes straight down. I don't want to be a helicopter coach. I don't want them to be helicopter players. I said, I want them to be an airplane. And I'm kind of like an airplane in theory. An airplane starts from the bottom, and then it takes off on the runway, and then it takes off. And the pilot says, hey, we're going to get up to 30,000 feet. And as they're working up to 30,000 feet, they reach that point. And so now it's smooth sailing, but then they run into some turbulence. And unlike a helicopter, he says, hey, we got to go down about 5,000 feet to get out of this, or we got to fight through this turbulence. So I want you guys to be heads up. It's going to be a little bit rocky, but we're going to get through this, and then we're going to keep moving forward. And so that is where I am in regards to my thought process in coaching. I don't want the players to look in the dugout or look at me on the bases or wherever I am and feel like if something didn't happen the way we wanted, that I just deflated. There is emotion, and I understand that, but I'm not going to be done for it. There's turbulence. We struck out with the bases loaded. We didn't make the play that got us out an inning. We had an opportunity to score some runs. We have bases loaded, no outs, and we don't score, and we're down by one. That's just turbulence. We need to move on because our motto is to win the next pitch. And so we didn't score this inning. Well, guess what? When we go out the next inning on defense, forget what happened in the past. Win the next pitch. Well, coach, that was a strike. That pitch was right down the middle. Win the next pitch. And to get our guys to understand that's part of coaching. To get our guys to understand my thought process and being successful, that's part of coaching. So when I say I need to get better as a coach, it's to get our guys to understand that there's always the next pitch. And then sometimes you get players and they can't move past that. They're, when things are going well, they're so excited. When things are not going well, they just kind of like a helicopter, they just fall down. I'm like, hey, we're an airplane. There's always tomorrow. There's always the next pitch. Win the next one, and let's move on. And, some people said, hey, you're excited about the season. What are you trying to do the first game? I'm trying to win the first pitch. And then what are you trying to do after that? Well, I'm trying to win the second pitch. And then I'm trying to win the first out. And then I'm trying to win the first inning. And then that process, if we just keep doing that over the course of the game, over the course of the season, the end result will take care of itself. And that's where my coaching and teaching, the mental part, comes into play to get our guys to understand this is what it takes to be successful. And we can't look at the name on the back or the front of the jersey, or we can't look at the name on the back of the jersey. Especially we can't look at the name on the front of the jersey. Just go play the game. If the people out there who listen on the radio and watching the Zoom, if we look at the College World Series or the playoffs, baseball playoffs, and say NCAA Division I, there's some schools that no one even gave them a chance to have success. And my thing to my next class of recruits and to our next team here at Alcorn State is why how can I put this? That can be us, because we don't have all the bells and whistles, and you don't need that to be successful. Murray State, it's funny, I recruited the young man who's the head coach at Murray State a long time ago when I coached up in Michigan. I look, and my goodness, he's making it to the College World Series. No one even expected him to make the regional, to win the regional, and then win the super regional and beat some of the top teams in the country. I've done that in my past, and that's what I plan on bringing to Alcorn State. I just need 35 guys, or actually the NCAA says 34 guys, as long with our assistant coaches, that to believe that it can be done. And so the teams that played this past weekend has shown us that it can be done.
We're talking with Braves head baseball coach Carlton Hardy. Some texts have come in, and we'll get to those. So, Coach, obviously some news over the past few days with the settlement, the NCAA settlement. The judge has signed off on it. It is now in effect, and we all know what that's about. Break it down to us in terms of how that will impact Alcorn baseball. Does it impact Alcorn baseball at all in terms of roster spots, roster numbers, scholarships? How does that impact Alcorn baseball, if at all?
Great question, Charles. So just like every other coach in the country, I've looked at it. As a coaching staff, we said, okay, well, 34-man roster. Let's go. Let's be balanced. Let's go 17 pitchers, 3 catchers, 8 infielders, 6 outfielders. That equals 34. If we look at our roster last year, I believe I had 9 outfielders. All 9 outfielders, that's all they could do is play the outfield. I had 3 or 4 first basemen, and that's all they could do is play first base. I had 2 or 3 catchers, and that's all they could do was catch. So that made us a little bit limited in regards to being strategic and for success. And so I said, well, we need to have a balance. So if we have 17 position players and my goal is to have 17 pitchers in the program, I don't want all 17 right-handed hitters. It may be 10-7. In a perfect world, it's 9-8. So then we can match up with other programs. Well, you have to look at your roster to fit what you're trying to do, and so you mentioned early in the interview, you talked about, well, the pitching, and well, we roughly had about 12 pitchers, and two of those pitchers were position players. Well, once you get into a certain part of the game, a decision has to be made. Hey, we need to go to the bullpen and bring in someone else. And people are like, well, you have all these pitchers on your team. Well, if you look at the teams that have been successful, especially in this playoffs, I just read that at the Division II playoffs, one of the universities who ended up in second place, their pitcher threw 122 pitches the day before to get to the championship day. He pitched, and then he had to go to the hospital to get an IV. He came back the next morning and pitched in the first game, and I think he threw about 15 or 17 pitches. 3-4 hours later, he pitched in the final game of the season to close out the game, and I believe he threw two innings. Well, someone would say, well, what about all the other pitchers on the team? Well, when you get to a certain point when it's winning time, you have to go with your best. And sometimes your best, they have to do some extraordinary things to be successful. And so I don't ever want to put our team in that position. So we need a multitude of guys that can carry the weight. If this young man doesn't have it, we can move on to the next guy. And so, again, to kind of answer your question, the settlement, it made it easier, but then it made it tougher, because then you have to make some tough decisions. It's some guys that were on our roster that can play a good brand of baseball, but you only can keep so many guys if you want to have a balanced roster. So in the future, we won't have 4 first basemen on one team. We probably won't have 9 outfielders, because if we have that many, then we're going to be lacking in certain areas. So it forces coaches to manage their roster a little bit better, and then that's where recruiting comes in. So I was on the phone, and I was just at an event earlier today, and there's kids, and I'm hearing from coaches, and I have my own list of players that I need to see that we're recruiting. And, well, coach, I only can take so many catchers. Well, I got a guy's like, I'm not saying he can't play, but we already have 3 catchers in our program. Can he play other position? No, he's strictly a catcher. Well, then that really limits me, because I have to wait on him, because, again, I still need to fill 3 more slots with pitching. I still need to find a shortstop, and I still need to find 1 more outfielder. Once I fill those positions, I'll look at other places. So I think that ruling from the NCAA, the quote unquote bigger schools, they can't just kind of hoard a bunch of players and say, well, you're not going to play this year, but you can sit over here on the side. You can redshirt. I can redshirt 6 or 7 of those guys. Now those 6 or 7 will trickle to other programs. And if we start at the top, they will trickle down to the mid-majors. And then the mid-majors, they have to make a decision. It'll trickle down further. Then it'll go Division II, Division III, JUCO. So I think it's a good thing. Money-wise, it doesn't affect us. Hey, we're Alcorn. Hey, we're gonna do what we need to do to be successful. Whether I have the 34 scholarships that the NCAA says now that we can send out, or unfortunately there's a situation where Alcorn State has 0 scholarships in baseball, we're still going to have a baseball program. And if I'm in charge, we're still going to be successful. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares. Did you win or you lose? But that's the bottom line. Did you graduate your guys? Did you win or you lose? So I wake up and I go to bed with that thought process. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. I know what I need to do. I know what it needs to be. I know what needs to be done to be successful, and I plan on doing that moving forward.
I remember we had a conversation, I think it was midway part of the year. We were just talking about the roster, and you mentioned the word two-way players. That's something that you want to get more of. Explain to folks, I mean, that the phrase two-way means that you want to have, obviously, it seems like you want to have a player that can play multiple positions. Is that kind of what that means when you talk about two-way players?
Yeah, so everyone has their term. Most people, when they hear two way, a young man pitches and then he also plays a position. Um, that is a two way player, but every player that I coach, I want them to have the versatility to play multiple positions. My favorite team is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so one of my favorite players is a player by the name of Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts started off his high school and I don't know if he went to college, but his early years in minor leagues playing in the infield. When he got to the major leagues, they wanted to get his bat in the lineup. And so he was welcome to go to the outfield. He became a MVP and one of the best players in baseball over his career. He comes to the Dodgers, and after 2 or 3 years after winning the World Series, they move him into the infield. And so the versatility of Mookie Betts allows the Dodgers to say, you know what, we can go get this free agent outfielder because it's easier to find a free agent outfielder because now Mookie Betts can come play in the dirt. He can play second base. He can play shortstop. Some people say that, the leadoff guy for the Dodgers, the Japanese, I forget his name, Shohei Ohtani. Well, he pitches and he DHs, but when he first got to the major leagues with the California or with the LA Angels, he actually played some time in the outfield. So it's like, well, the MLB says you only can have 13 pitchers on the roster, on a 26-man roster. Well, they don't count Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher because he plays multiple positions. So when he gets healthy to come back to pitch, the Dodgers can actually have a little bit more than other teams in Major League Baseball because now they can have 14 pitchers. And so when I look at it at Alcorn State, if I have three catchers and that's all I can do is that's all they can do is catch, only one guy can play. But if one of those catchers can play first base and he's a left-handed hitter and they're throwing a right-handed pitcher, well, then he can actually start at first base and keep his bat in the lineup and still have the number one catcher catching the game. Or my shortstop, he can also play center field. My right fielder, he's not just a right fielder, he can play third base. And that just gives us a little bit more versatility. We had a couple of guys on the team this year, but I didn't think we had enough depth. You mentioned Spanky Davis. Well, in high school, he played shortstop. Um, when we brought him to Alcorn, we wanted him to concentrate on pitching. But in order for us to be successful, we had to move him to different positions because, as you said, he was one of the seventh best hitter in the conference, or eighth best hitter, or 380, whatever he hit. Well, when he's not pitching, I got to get him in the lineup, and the only place on the field, because we were limited other places, was third base. I thought it was somewhat unfair to him because I would pitch him the first game, and then he would have to play third base the next two games. And that was my decision, in other words, to give us the best chance to be successful. But then sometimes I saw he was a little bit tired. And so I said, okay, you know what? We're not going to pitch him the first game. We're going to pitch him the last game because offense helps us be successful. But then on the flip side of that, when we got to that third game, I saw he was a little tired because he had to play the first two games. But if we have a little bit more versatility, instead of putting him at third base when he's not pitching, he can maybe DH to kind of rest his legs, rest his arms to give him a little bit more energy to get through the weekend and get through the season. So that's our goal with that two-way guy, just to give us a little bit more versatility so that we're not possibly wearing guys out. They're there and they're strong for the long haul.
That was one of the things you talked about pitching. One of the teams, I think Florida A&M, they obviously lost on a walk-off 3-run home run, but you go with only a certain number of arms, and you got a lot of arms that you didn't really use, and fans are wondering, well, and as you mentioned, you got all these pitchers, and in the tournament, you only use a handful of pitchers. A couple of years ago when FAMU won the championship, they had a guy, Zach Moray. They call him Everyday Moray because he pitched every day in the SWAC tournament and even in the regionals when they won. So, but what do you say to people that would say, well, coach, you got 15 pitchers, but in the tournament, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, you only use 6. Is kind of how it is in SWAC baseball, HBCU baseball, especially tournament baseball, in which you're kind of going with the guys that you know that can probably get you through some of these games as best as you can.
I think it's all sports, Charles. We're the regular season is a little bit different than the playoffs. Um, it's not necessarily winning time, but you're trying to win a championship. And so if you look at the game of basketball, well, most teams play 9, 10 guys over the course of a season, but when you get in the playoffs, that gets limited to about 8 guys. The Los Angeles Lakers played the whole second half of a game with the same starting five. There was no substitutions. If you look at football, um, people say, "Oh man, you should bring in a backup quarterback because the score is whatever the case may be." Well, no, that quarterback stays out there. Um, and just all sports, baseball. Like, hey, it once the games get kind of winning time, championship time, it's not necessarily, well, you have all these guys, but there's only certain guys who are in the game when the game counts. And you just, as coaches, sometimes we just go with a gut feeling like, hey, this is our guy. And so, with all respect to all coaches out there and all fans who are not in the locker room, um, you don't know what was the discussion made before the game started. Maybe someone that you thought was available came to you and said, "Coach, I don't feel good. Hey, my arm's a little sore. Hey, I'm a little sick. My neck hurts. I slept wrong," or whatever the case may be. Or you're like, in order for us to be successful, these 3 guys are going to take us to the championship. But if the starter gets knocked out in the second inning, that kind of changes. So, well, you know what? Instead of you pitching 3, 4 innings, now you got to pitch 6 or 7 innings. And our best chance to win is with you on the mound tired compared to someone who's fresh, who just, haven't been put in those situations before.
We're talking with Braves coach Carlton Hardy, Braves baseball coach Carlton Hardy. Coach, you were at the baseball tournament in Birmingham. We talked about that. Bethune-Cookman won it on a walk-off 3-run home run. Give us your thoughts, first of all, on SWAC baseball overall, and then you're at the tournament and just the format and just Bethune-Cookman coming out of there. It was a lot of exciting games. What is your thought, number one, first year in the SWAC, having to go through the gauntlet of the SWAC for the most part, and then the SWAC tournament? Talk about that.
I thought Birmingham, Alabama did a wonderful job. I thought the venue was great. There was excitement in the stands. I thought every team that was there played their hardest. The top 2 teams in the conference ended up in the championship game, and the game. A lot of people think the game was decided on that one pitch in the 9th inning, but there was a multitude of things that happened over the course of that game, and actually over the course of the week, that put teams in a position to be successful. And so everybody looks at the end result, but again, I look at the process. What happened in the 3rd inning? You had a chance to get out of the inning. What happened in the 5th inning? You didn't get the bunt down. What happened in the 7th inning? You had a chance to turn a double play. All these things. The day before, you're starting shortstop, who's one of the best shortstops in the conference, has been there for 3.5 years. On a fluke play, he injures himself. And so now the guy that's gotten you this far, the last game of the conference season, he's not there for you. So, it's just a ton of things that happen in that game over the course of the week. But again, I thought the experience was great. I wanted to get there, and I appreciate our administration allowing me to attend. Alcorn State's going to be there, and my plan is to be there next year. A lot of people don't realize this is that my first time meeting you, you're at a basketball game and you're working on the bench, and hey, coach, I'm Charles. I talked to you on the phone, and hey, how you doing? Hey, I got my tickets ready for Atlanta. We going to Atlanta? I'm saying to myself, I haven't even seen the team yet, but that is the expectation of Alcorn State athletics, that we compete for championships. So I knew I signed up for the right place, and so I want to make you proud, our team proud, the administration proud, and our fans and alums, that I'm the right guy that they chose for the position, and I'm going to get our team to the championship.
We're talking with Braves Head Baseball coach Carlton Hardy. You can send a text 601-301-2611. I'm on X Tallman Radio. Coach, we got some questions that have come in. So obviously, just getting to know you, and folks are still doing that. One of the questions, how many coaches do you have on staff? Just basic question.
Before the season starts, we will have 3 to 4 guys on the staff.
Okay, 3 to 4 guys on the staff. Okay. Another question. A lot of kids recruited are seemingly coming from up north. What was the buy-in to get those players to Alcorn State University and their understanding of the history and the dynamics of the university?
So, very good question. I guess some guys have posted on Twitter that they've committed. Baseball is a unique game, and at the end of the day, it's to get the best players to help us have the most success. And so, someone asks, like, "Hey, where do you go to recruit?" I'm trying to recruit the best student athletes for Alcorn State baseball, whether they're from up north or down south or out west. I mean, we have a Japanese young man that will be on the roster next year. We have a Canadian young man that will be on the roster next year. We have kids from down south. We have kids from the East Coast, and yes, we have kids from up north. Those are the young men out of all the people we talked to. They appreciated the vision that I have for the program, and they want to come join it and help us have as much success as we possibly can.
Good question there. And this is always a question with coaches coming in. Coach, what do you need as far as equipment is concerned? I think you've been asked that probably throughout your first year.
I appreciate the support. We have areas that we look at in totality, and so I have a wish list. I'm more than happy to share it, not in this form, but I encourage you to email me, and I'll let you know what we're looking at or what we actually feel like we need at this present time. There's a process to do it. But the one good thing, it goes right to the baseball program, and we can use it as needed.
All right. So you talked about your coaches. Just give the coaches' names for those who might not know.
So we're in transition. I will be hiring 2 more guys. A couple of coaches that were with us last year will not be with us this year. And so it's a fluid situation, but as soon as the jobs become posted, I have a couple of guys in mind. So I can't give them their names because they're not official, but we have 2 guys that I'm confident that will be joining our staff. Of course, we have to go through the process with human resources and selecting a committee, but I have 2 guys in mind that I'm talking to in regards to, like, hey, I want you to apply and hopefully things work out. You'll be part of the staff. But we will have 2 other guys, and Coach Cedric Bell, who's been at Alcorn for a good little year. He helps out volunteering. So he's the one gentleman that's on staff, that's on campus as we speak. But we'll have 2 other young men join the staff here in short order, hopefully by July 1 at the latest.
And then the obvious thing, and this goes throughout the conference, how many, and again, I do different shows talking about SWAC stuff, including Alcorn stuff, and we talk about these things. How many teams actually have a bona fide pitching coach that's all they do is just deal with the arms 24/7, 365? So a question, and obviously, is your plan to hire a pitching coach? Or with the dynamics of what you deal with, is that something that's possible, plausible, doable? What do you think about that, and just hiring a bona fide pitching coach?
To answer the first question, Charles, I cannot speak on other programs. I don't like to speak on other programs. I only like to speak on Alcorn State. We will be hiring a full-time pitching coach next year. The assistant coach that we're going to hire is actually going to be an assistant pitching coach. So we're going to have 2 guys working with the pitchers. That's what a bunch of my colleagues and mentors do at the group of 5 level, because there's so many pitchers, instead of having one guy handles a minimum of 17, we'll have 2 guys handle a minimum of 17. But my plan is to have anywhere from 17 to 20 pitchers on the staff next year. Currently, we're at 14. And so minimum, we'll bring in 3 more guys. Max, we'll bring in maybe 6 more guys. But there's probably 15 to 17 offers out on the table. I've been on a Zoom call with 15 guys over the past 2.5 days. I have another Zoom call here at 8 p.m. tonight with a pitcher that's looking to transfer from one of these major universities in the country.
I saw, and I know, at your previous institution, I read a player that's in the portal that was at your previous institution. I saw that on social media. So it just, there's constant fluid movement in all sports, but especially baseball.
Yeah, it's when that transfer portal came out, it's unfortunate for the high school guys, but the transfer portal doesn't open up for Division I student athletes. It didn't open up to June the 3rd. And so a bunch of programs have been waiting until June the 3rd to start legally speaking and recruiting young men. We were one of those schools. Well, if you're waiting, it's hard to get those kids to commit without NIL money the day after the portal opens. So they need time to process all the people that may be constantly contacting them. But we will pretty much have our roster set. I was talking to someone today. I'm looking at about the 3rd week of June, because I'm explaining to these transfers and these portal guys, it's not as easy as a high school senior getting into school. You got to have your transcripts evaluated. Then it has to go to the admissions office. They have to accept you. Then you have to get your housing. Then you have to get your classes. And if you think you can do that in 1 week and you bombard universities at the last minute, it becomes an issue. And I don't want to wait that long. We want to get the ball rolling as soon as the first day of class is, so we can get guys to, understand the Alcorn State culture. And it's Alcorn State's not for everyone. And so what I tell people, baseball is not for everyone. It's only for about 1% of the student population. If we have 3,000 students and there's 30 players, that's 1%. So it's not for everyone. And so I want guys to be 100% committed and dedicated, and not let things that happen on campus affect the responsibility they have to their teammates, to the university, and to the baseball program. So we're going to get back to that. I think we're headed in the right direction. I'm excited about where we're going. And I can't wait to get on campus and start coaching these guys and start mentoring these guys.
Of the conversations that you've had, and you've talked about your recruiting net, you were telling me that you got a tier 1 group of guys, tier 2, tier 3, however many tiers that you have. But of the conversation that you had, you talked about NIL. What percentage of those conversations in which the player on the other end of the line has said NIL? Has that been 100%, 90%, 50%? What percentage would you put on that?
It has been 0%, because we have a target group that we're looking at. What I do, and what I did this past season, is that I stood out front and I took it on the chin, and I kept my notes, and in short order, we're going to be returning this to some of these teams in the conference, and throughout the schedule that we're going to have. What are they doing to be successful? What wins in the SWAC? Okay, so who's the top third baseman in the SWAC, and what's the top half of the third baseman look like in the SWAC? and what's the top half of the pitchers and the outfield and the first baseman. So I look at all that, and I say, okay, well, that's where we need to go. We need to at least be in the top half at each position. So, I come up with a game plan. I come up with, certain metrics that are players that I want them to have. And so then I go attack that. We understand that there's players out there, and I don't even run across them, because when I do, I just move on because I'm wasting my time. Most of the kids that we are recruiting have options, and that's where it gets tough. And so I can't speak for previous years, but every new player that will be on Alcorn State campus to play baseball had multiple offers to attend other schools. And we were fortunate to win some of those battles. And I can't get stuck on just you being in the South. We have to find one of the best shortstops in the country to help us be successful. And I don't want to limit ourselves to just one particular region. If that young man happens to be from California, so be it. But, someone said that, well, I don't want to go there. But I said, hey, I thought we're purple and gold. We're not, that's our colors. We're purple and gold. So whatever you think about anything, at the end of the day, we're going to be purple and gold. We're going to represent purple and gold. And, I saw some things this year that I didn't like. I'm on campus, and why are you wearing that shirt? Oh, well, coach, I said, well, we're Alcorn State Braves. I'll tell you what, it's going to be in my best interest to make sure that you have a couple of T-shirts and maybe a hoodie that you can wear when you get cold, so you don't have to wear that other school's colors. I've been at 4 different institutions. My son is, he was at Grambling. My daughter's at Howard. I don't have any, and I graduated from Grambling. I don't have one item that says Grambling in my closet. And if I do, I wouldn't wear it on campus at Alcorn State, because I'm an Alcorn State Brave now. And so I want our players to understand that it's all about Alcorn State Braves. It's all about that purple and gold. And wherever we are, we're going to represent that.
Yeah, you do see that, and I know it just drives coaches crazy, and obviously that drove you crazy when you saw that.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, and so again, going back to the NIL stuff, just recruiting, it's a different animal, it's a different beast. Every player is different. Probably every coach is different. We're just going to get the best players who's going to help us have the most success, that's going to represent the university and be proud to wear the purple and gold of Alcorn State Braves baseball.
So how many players, I think we talked about it at the top, again, for those who might be joining us late, how many new players will be on this roster in 2026?
The goal starting the fall was 25. Right now, as I speak, we will have anywhere from 25 to 30 student athletes, and it will be their first time on campus in August. So about 25, 30 new baseball players. Right now we're at 17. This is considered early June. The portal just opened. Even the kids that we were talking to before, they're waiting, they're playing the game. What's the best offer? Hey, this is the Alcorn State offer. And so, let's shock the world. Do you want to be a part of history, or do you just want to be, a person that play for XYZ school? I don't talk about other schools, but it's all about Alcorn. We got a chance to really do some great things here, and I think it's the right time. Derek Jeter was interviewed, longtime Yankees shortstop. I think he's in the Hall of Fame now. He was interviewed by a reporter, and they said, Derek, you're 0 for 40. You're 0 for your last 40. Don't you think in the next at bat you should be pinch hit for? He's like, no. He's like, why you say that? Well, I'm due. And so that's my philosophy. Like, we're due. We're due to have success. And why should you go to school A or school B when this is a great opportunity to be successful here. And every time you win a game, that you are going to make history and you're going to leave a legacy. Like you were the guy to help Alcorn State put another banner on their outfield fence. Where there's some programs, they have 25 banners up on their outfield fence and they have a history of doing all these things. You can be the first this decade. And it starts in
Yeah.
2026. And that's why we want you to come be a Brave.
I know with the COVID and with the new JUCO rules, those who played JUCO and all that will have the potential to have an additional year. Those were seniors. Do you have any of those seniors that are in that category that have a possibility of having an additional year if they so choose?
Off the top of my head, don't quote me, but we have committed 3 of those young men who have that. They've graduated, and they played a year in JUCO, and we've I don't want to say convinced, but we I should say I have had a plan in place to bring those guys aboard, and we've been somewhat successful. Now, success is relative. It's not like every young man we talk to. I probably have to talk to 20 kids to get one. So if you can imagine, if I'm trying to bring in 25, when we do the math, that's 2,500 kids I'm talking to. No, I'm
Yeah.
wrong. 25 for 20. That's about 600 kids I'm talking to just to get 25 here. So it's never ending, but it just didn't start on June the 3rd. It started after my first practice. That, hey, so I think we had 7 in the early signing period, and over the course of the year, we're still recruiting. And so now I can get out and go put my eyes on people. One thing that we started doing is we started Zoom calling. And so instead of making a phone call, and I probably shouldn't given away our game because I don't know too many coaches do this at our level, that we set up Zoom calls. And so now I can, well, they can't get out here to Alcorn. One young man told me, Coach, the prices are so high. We wanted to visit. Is there any way? Hey, let's get on the Zoom. And so parents got on the Zoom. They saw me. I showed them some things, and we talked about some things, and they felt comfortable and like, hey, Coach, we're ready to commit. All right, Ms. Smith and Dr. Ganson, let's get these scholarships going so we can get them signed and move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
But a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand. You got to keep recruiting. One coach asked me, like, well, Coach, I said, yeah, you got to touch them. You got to, but they're already committed. Yeah, but they can decommit at any point. So even though we have these guys signed, I still have to touch them once a week. So it's not only the 10, 15 phone calls or text messages or DMs that I'm making. It's those 17 other guys. I got to keep them in the loop, keep them excited about the things that's happening at Alcorn. So it's a never-ending battle. People say, "Oh, well, the season's over. You get a chance to relax." I'll probably work harder in the off season than I do in the regular season.
We got a couple of minutes left. Couple of questions, Coach. Just a tweet coming in on Tall Man Radio. Coach, do you recruit the Dominican Republic?
Good question. I do not limit myself to any origin or nationality. It's funny that question was asked. They may have been, I may need to check my laptop because I was just on a Zoom call with a young man from Dominican Republic. He's a catcher that we're supposed to be, I think, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. He's doing everything that we asked. He's applying to the school. He's done his financial aid. And so now it's a matter of, will the numbers match? But I recruit all over. I have to get some contacts in the Dominican Republic. But no, I'm open. If anyone has any insight or connection, hey, feel free to email me. And I have no problem hopping on the phone to see if we can get some ends to people. I appreciate all the alums who help us. They've led me to some players that I didn't think I had a chance to get. I didn't know about. Had a chance to talk to them, and 1 or 2 guys committed. So I'm open to. I'm not narrow-minded or I try to look at people through their eyes. So if you tell me about a player, I'm going to look at them, but I'm going to look at them through your eyes. Do I see what you see? And then I need to make a determination. Will that young man be a fit? And that young man may be one of the best players. I just got into an argument with a coach. I have a guy that's one of the best players, and he plays first base. Well, we have two first basemen. Well, coach, he's better than every player that you have. I appreciate that. But he also can do this. I appreciate that. All he needs is 100% scholarship. Thank you for the phone call. That will never happen at Alcorn State. So we don't have 34 scholarships. So he may be better than everyone, and then I'll just take that. But I'm confident in the two young men that we have now that's going to play first base, that's going to have success and lead us to success.
Well, speaking of that, you talked about scholarships. A question: is there a chance for more than 11.7 scholarships next year? You could offer more. The question, I guess, from a financial piece, is that plausible? Is that realistic? Is it possible?
That is a great question. I am not in a position to answer that. I do encourage any donation to our foundation with respect to baseball, to contact the athletic director, to contact our fundraising partnership with our collective. I believe we have a collective. And then that money can be used to scholarship. If you earmark baseball, I believe that money can be used to help bring guys in. But right now, I'm never satisfied, but I'm happy where we are. And then we're just going to move forward. But again, I think that's more of an administration question. I can't answer that question. I wish I could, but I don't have the answer to that question. Maybe you can tell us,
Understood.
Charles. Maybe
Well,
you can give us.
I can't answer it. But I tell you what, the person that can will be here in this space in 2 weeks. Dwayne Robinson has agreed to join us 2 weeks from today. So he'll
That's
be able to
awesome.
answer those questions. Next week, by the way, Brianna Billy, the Lady Braves softball coach, completing our first season, will join us. Coach, we got to a lot of stuff, but the stadium upgrades. Talk to us about that. Obviously, we had an issue with one of the light poles, had to take them all down. Just talk about that a little bit.
Everything's a process. I was excited that I'm enjoying lunch, and Dr. Cook stopped by my table. Hey, Coach, how's it going? He asked me to do some things in regards to putting a proposal together to give to him, which I plan on doing that within the next 2 weeks. Because he's interested in upgrading our facilities along with AD Robinson.
Okay, so there's the facility upgrades. I know it's a warning track, the field graded off, and all of that. How did that work out this year? As far I know, it was one game. There's a lot of water in the outfield, and you had to kind of move a game to the next. I think that was the Jackson State series. The
That's
infield looks
correct.
great, but then the water in the outfield. Is there a plan to deal with that during the off season?
It's a process, yes. As they say, Rome wasn't built in one day. And so I was excited about because we had issues in the fall that when it rained, it would take us 3 or 4 days before we get on the field. Now we don't necessarily have to tarp. If it rains the night before, we can get on the infield the next day. So the company and the support from AD Robinson and Dr. Cook to help us with the financials to get that taken care of is great. The next step is the outfield. I've talked to individuals on campus, and we have a plan in place to kind of fill in some low spots as we move forward. We look to have new bullpens within the next 2 years, a covered batting cage. We're going to adjust our dugout fence. So there's some great things going along with the Alcorn State baseball program, and I appreciate the questions for our fans and alumni as they help support what we're trying to do with the baseball program. But there's a lot of good things as we move forward that may not be out in the open, but we like to surprise people sometimes with, wow, this looks great. So that's what.
Absolutely. A couple of questions, Coach. I know we've said that 2 or 3 questions ago, but as you here we are, the second week in June. What's your schedule like? What's going to take place between now and will some players be in the second summer session, or will it be the fall? How does that schedule look in terms of players coming in?
So baseball wise, good question. There's a couple of our transfer kids. They need to do summer school, so they have the so they can be eligible in the fall. But they're going to do that back home, whether it's in Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana, Georgia. I got a kid from Florida. We actually have a kid from Wyoming or North Dakota, somewhere up north. I can't think of all these places. So they're going to do that back home. So we won't have any new baseball players until that first week entering school on campus, I should say. And but they're chomping at the bit. They're trying to come work out. Like, nope, that's against the rules. We'll be okay. We'll get our work in once school starts.
And obviously, Braves fans always ask this question: what can fans do to help the baseball program? I think you talked about it a little bit. But I mean, obviously, 6 wins. And I know you didn't sleep well at night. I know you probably were thinking about it, but now you're getting ready to move forward. You got a lot of new players coming in, a lot of new pieces coming in. What can Braves fans do to aid and assist the baseball program?
Just keep supporting the guys. Whether it be we've been on the road, and I can't think of enough. I unfortunately I don't know their names off the top of my head, but we're one game we're at Grambling, and I believe it was Grambling, and a family that provided some snacks in between games for the players. Their son played for Grambling, but they were alums of Alcorn State. The alumni chapter and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but when we played Southern, so I want to say the alumni chapter of Baton Rouge provided snacks for the players in between games. So, just little things like that. Just, come out, support those young men, win, lose, or draw. They're doing everything for the success of Alcorn State baseball and Alcorn State University. And as I told the young men who finished their careers, I did not do a good enough job to help them have a successful senior season in regards to the wins and losses. But I want them to take pride that I'm going to do everything in my power that as we move forward from the 2025 season, that they'll be proud to wear that purple and gold wherever they are and speak highly of their experience at Alcorn State, their experience with the baseball program, their 1 year with me, and see the upward success that the program will have moving forward.
Well, so when I get off this, when I get done with this, I need to pick up my phone and call hotels in Birmingham and book my reservations for Braves baseball to be in Birmingham at Rickwood Park. Is that correct?
I believe so. I believe that would be a smart investment. Just don't use Bitcoin.
Oh no, I definitely not going to use that, or else I'll lose. I'll lose it all. What do you think
So,
about Rickwood Park, Coach? Tournament's been in Atlanta a couple of years. This is the second time the tournament has been at Rickwood Park, but just the history and all of that, being in that ballpark, and there's a lot of home runs hit to my surprise, but
a
it was
lot
a
of
walk
home.
off 3-run home runs that was hit. What are your thoughts about the tournament at Rickwood?
Like I said, I believe it's a great venue. Some people say it's a neutral site. I'm not a geographic person, but I thought the city of Birmingham did a great job. Our commissioner's office did a great job of hosting that. They talked about things that they're going to do to make it a little bit better experience for the student athletes. It's in even though it's right there in the city of Birmingham, I think it's a great avenue because some of our inner city schools can have an opportunity to come see black players playing black college baseball or just the HBCU experience. Um, the I've had an opportunity to play or coach in that area before. When I was at Savannah State, we would always play Miles College. That became their home field. Even when I was at Talladega College way back in 1997 through 99, I had an opportunity to coach at that field. So again, and what Major League Baseball did to it, oh my goodness, that is a Major League Baseball playing surface that a lot of our young men don't get an opportunity to play in. So it's a great experience. I'm excited that it's near Alcorn, so when we make it, our Mississippians can get there easier, and the alums we have in down south can make it to the game. So we'll be there. Um, I don't have 100% guarantee, but I'm almost certain with the roster that we're bringing in and the things that we're developing here at Alcorn State. We're going to make a mark in this conference come 2026.
I know you're working on your schedule. I asked you this in our first interview. Your previous place, Alcorn, Savannah State in baseball, is that in the works for 2026?
That's a little bit too far, but I'm more than happy if Savannah State wanted to travel over to Alcorn State and play us. That would be great. I'm more of I want to play games where one, our players are from. I told the young man from Canada, we won't go up there. I told the young man from Japan, we won't be going over there. But I want to, I want to play in the South. I mean, we have good weather. I want people to experience Alcorn. People always talk about it's a home field advantage for us. We sit in the first base dugout, so the sun won't be in our eye in the dugout. When we get our Braves fans out there, I want to pack the stadium like the football stadium, and so now they're right there, they're right on top of you, and I want everyone out there. If we could create some bleachers right behind the dugout on the side of the dugout, so when the other team come back to the dugout, they feel what it means to be an Alcornite and like, oh my goodness, this is a tough place to play, and that's what we're trying to make Alcorn State be in regards to baseball. That it's a tough place to play. No one wants to come play us, and that's my goal. When they see us on the schedule, oh my goodness, we have to play Alcorn State. They're looking past us because they don't think they can beat us.
It should be interesting. I know the schedule. You ended the season at home against Florida A&M. So does it flip next year? You talked about being in Birmingham next year. So will we end up on the road in Tallahassee and then make that trek to Birmingham? Is that kind of the way the SWAC schedule ends for us?
No, it's a unique schedule. So with an odd number of teams in baseball, we don't have an East-West. Now everyone literally plays everyone except one opponent each year. The unique thing, FAMU is not on the schedule. So they would be on the schedule in 27, but we finished our season, if I'm not mistaken, our last two weekends are at home. So our plan is to play that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, have a light practice Monday, pack up early Tuesday morning, go down to Birmingham, have another practice, and be ready to get after it on that Wednesday.
Okay, so that's a different change. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Braves Head Baseball Coach Carlton Hardy. Coach, we really appreciate it. A lot of good stuff, and we're going to be talking to you in the fall as you get ready for fall ball, and you're going to be playing some of the JUCOs in fall ball. We were talking about that earlier. Talk about that.
Yeah. So when I arrived last year, it was a little late, trying to get adapted to the entire being a Brave and understanding the system. Our plan is to play a minimum of two non-football weekends. So it'll either be Saturday when the football team's out of town, or maybe even a Sunday when the football team's in town. For the fans that come down for Saturday's game, if they're staying overnight, they want to come watch some baseball, they can watch it on Sunday. So we'll play a minimum of two games. Dates have not been set, but the plan is to play some of our Mississippi JUCOs, get those players on campus, let them see what Alcorn's about. Most junior colleges have anywhere from 40 to 50 players, and it's always been my plan that helps with recruiting. If a team brings 40 players, and we play 2 games, that's 80 potential student athletes that can possibly be members of the Alcorn State baseball program. Or if they give up baseball, they see the campus, they fall in love with it because it's such a beautiful campus, that they become members of the Alcorn State University community.
So we'll be definitely checking that out in the fall. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Braves head baseball coach Carlton Hardy. Again, Coach, we appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you down the road.
Charles, thank you. Fans and alumni, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Look forward to seeing you guys out there in the spring, or yet and still in the fall at some of the football games this year.
We appreciate it, Coach.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Next week at 5 o'clock, we'll be talking with Lady Braves softball coach Brianna Billy. She'll join us, and we'll be taking your questions as well. And then 2 weeks from today, Athletics Director Dwayne Robinson has agreed to join us. We're going to try to get Coach Cedric Thomas in as the football players come in July. So we'll be talking with Coach Thomas as well. So that's in the hopper with your questions and comments. We appreciate Coach Hardy. We appreciate you joining us inside Braves Athletics. I'm Charles Eppin. Our producers, Jamario Brooks and Cedric Tillman. We'll talk to you right back here next Tuesday at 5 o'clock with Lady Braves softball coach Brianna Billy. Her team really played well down the stretch. She was in Gulfport at the softball tournament. We'll get her thoughts on her first season, recruiting, all that good stuff next Tuesday night. I'm Charles Edmond. Glad you can join us. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. So long.